Just made up your email.
Well, Katrina said Emily can sit in with her when she finishes school.
Just any time she'll go in.
I suppose we should go in ourselves.
Yeah, let's just pray this is all over by tonight.
It's Uncle Don. Hiya. I'm glad to see you.
Sorry, I couldn't get here any sooner.
Auntie Rose said you were away on business. Was it anywhere exciting?
No, just Dublin.
Right, we should get in.
Should we go and grab a coffee before they close?
Yeah, come ahead.
It'll be fine. They've got nothing.
Okay, well, good luck. Both of you.
I've missed you.
You are still going to come on holiday with us, aren't you?
Yeah, I'd love to go. I just feel a little bit nervous because I've never done anything like that before.
Well, as I said, there's plenty of time to practice in the pool.
I was thinking more about going off on holiday with a bunch of people I'd hardly know.
Ah, well, if we did get in a bit of practice, then we'd get to know each other a bit better, a lot quicker.
What sort of practice?
Basic survival instincts. Should we say in about an hour?
I can't just go off, you know, I own my business.
We'll take an earlier lunch then.
There was something else I wanted to ask you as well.
Go on.
Look, I don't want you thinking that I'm getting all heavy or anything, because I'm not.
About what?
About us. Well, it's a bit like me going away with you, actually. And I know we haven't been seeing each other long. And look, there's no pressure if you don't want to, because I won't be bothered, honest. Well, the thing is, when my dad and auntie are getting married next week, and I just wondered if you fancied coming, that's all.
I'd love to.
Honest?
Well, if you meet me at 1, you can fill me in on all the details then.
Okay. See you later.
Mr. Musgrove, you had had a dispute with Miss Shadwick several weeks prior to the party, had you not?
Yes. I was driving a cab at the time. I picked her up. It was the early hours of the morning. She'd been to a party at a friend's house.
And what state was she in?
She was absolutely legless. She didn't even recognize me at first.
She didn't recognize you?
Not at first, no. She was talking to me like I was a complete stranger. She couldn't even remember her own address.
She couldn't even remember her own address?
No. Just as well we'd been neighbours.
So, can you tell us what happened when you returned back at Brookside Close?
Yes. Just as we came home, she threw up all of the cab.
She vomited?
Yes.
Did she seem embarrassed?
No. She didn't even apologize. In fact, she didn't even pay the fare.
So she vomited all over your cab and then refused to pay?
But she didn't refuse. She was just so drunk she walked off. There was no point in arguing with her when she was in that state. My wife called around later and picked up the money then.
Your Honour, I really don't see what relevance this has.
Your Honour, I think it's beneficial to the jury to build up a picture of Miss Shadwick's lifestyle prior to the party.
I quite agree. You may continue, Mr. Corran.
Thank you, Your Honour. Was this the first time that you'd seen Miss Shadwick in such an intoxicated state?
No. It had become a regular thing. We saw her a few times, staggering out of taxis late at night, hardly able to walk, or put her key in the front door.
What did you make of this?
Well, to be perfectly honest, we just thought it was funny at the time.
So it would be fair to surmise that for the residents of Brookside Close, it wasn't uncommon to see Miss Shadwick returning home in such states of disarray.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Musgrove.
Mr. Musgrove, you are alleging that Miss Shadwick had had far too much to drink.
Yes.
You sometimes have far too much to drink too, don't you?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, were you not recently convicted of drink driving?
Well, what's that got to do with anything?
Well, I'm merely pointing out, Mr. Musgrove, that you are not above criticism in relation to such matters as well. Now, you were at the party yourself, weren't you, Mr. Musgrove?
Yes. I went to see my other son, Ryan.
But you ended up staying quite a considerable time, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yes.
Now, a witness claims he saw you leaving the room where Miss Shadwick was sleeping while fastening up your trousers.
I was looking for the toilet. I walked into the wrong room, that's all. I thought it was the bathroom. When I saw the girl on the bed, I left.
Were you, drunk, Mr. Musgrove?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Musgrove.
Right, that's it. Just breathe normally. See? Right. Next important rule is always break for a drink when you feel like one. Oh, yeah, this was definitely the right idea.
Hey, Mum's out going down on the court. Do you reckon I can go down?
Are you asking me to breach client confidentiality?
No, I'm just asking your professional opinion.
Well, I prefer to keep my work and my social life very separate, as our Katie discovered the other day.
Yeah, but we should prefer social or work.
Well, I think anyone that chooses work must have something seriously lacking, probably friends.
Or cash.
Well, my work's important to me, but if it was the main thing in my life, I'd never top myself.
Oh, well, there's nothing down for me then. I've been so obsessed with work over these last couple of years, it's hardly been time for anything else.
Well, that's because you own it. We'll have to do something about that, you know. All work and no play could make Jackie Dixon a very dull girl.
Are you saying that I am dull?
Would I? God, would I dare? I keep reading that you doctors are totally overworked with absolutely no time for social activities.
We are. I just finished morning surgery, and this is medically prescribed. New Year's resolution. At least 3 forms of exercise a week.
In or out of the bedroom?
Take no notice of him.
And you've kept it up all this time?
Don't get personal now.
Hey, you know what I meant.
You've got yourself a live one there, mate.
What's all that about you leaving the room zipping up your trousers?
Why did they have to bring all that up?
Made it sound like it should be you stood in that dock, not Luke. Why didn't they ever tell me?
There was nothing to tell. It was just a simple mistake.
Yeah, well, the barrister didn't make it sound like that.
How's it going?
From bad to worse.
What do you mean?
Let's all go and get a cuppa.
She did say 15 minutes, didn't she?
Yeah, must be great having all that power. Being able to take a break when you feel like it.
She's probably got off for a line of coke or something.
Matt!
Well, it's true. All these upper classes are the same.
Friends with a lot of judges, are you?
It's just a well-known fact.
Yeah, another well-known fact is that you live in Cloud Cuckoo Land. I won't be a minute. Heavy stuff, isn't it?
Look, Alec, I really don't think it's a good idea for us to be seen talking in here, do you?
Okay then, you're on. I'm in.
Oh, brilliant.
But first, hair.
Yeah, I need to make a move myself.
See you later.
I wouldn't have thought she was your type.
Well, after serving 5 years with Sarah, I'm not really sure what my type is anymore.
Opening yourself up to new experiences, eh?
Why not? You only live once.
You never know, though. She might be the one.
Oh, no way. I'm not looking for the one, and neither is Jackie, as far as I know.
I'm just going to love her and leave it then, eh?
What, like you with them? Diana, Kerry, Kathy, Dolores...
Okay, I get the picture.
Yeah, but you shouldn't judge other people by your own standards.
She was flirting with nearly every fella there. I mean, 1 minute she'd be all over me. The next she was all over our Luke.
All over?
Well, you know, just being very flirtatious. It was her body language, I suppose, and the way she was looking at people.
And how was she looking at people?
Well, the way you do when you want to cop off with them. I mean, you heard. Even her own brother thought she was acting like a slag. He wanted her to leave.
Thank you. No further questions.
Are you very close to your brother, Mr. Musgrove?
Yeah?
So it would be fair to say you'd do anything to defend him?
If he was innocent, yeah.
Even if that included intimidating witnesses?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Is it not correct that you visited Miss Shadwick at her home and tried to persuade her to drop the charges against your brother?
No.
I object, Your Honour. There is no evidence that this witness brought pressure on Miss Shadwick in any way.
If there was, it would not be evidence against your client, would it, Mr. Corr, unless it was suggested that he put the witness up to it?
No, Your Honour.
I take it, Mr. Georgeton, that you asked these questions upon instructions.
Certainly, Your Honour.
Then Mr. Georgeton is perfectly entitled to ask the question, and the witness is perfectly entitled to deny it. That is the end of the matter. Nobody is suggesting that the defendant asked Miss Shadwick to withdraw her evidence, and the witness has denied that he had. Under the circumstances, it becomes irrelevant, and you must put it from your minds. I shall not refer to it again.
I'm sorry, Your Honour. Mr. Musgrove, how can you be so confident that your brother is innocent?
Because he never left me sight long enough to rape anyone.
Yes, so you claim.
That's true.
So he was never out of your sight for more than 5 minutes?
No.
Never? At any point during the evening?
No.
Remember, you're under oath, Mr. Musgrove.
I'm telling the truth.
You have absolutely no doubt about that?
No.
So how do you explain his disappearance? earlier on in the evening, when he admits he was upstairs with Miss Shadwick. Surely you weren't with him then?
Well, apart from then...
Mr. Musgrove, you've just told the court your brother was never out of your sight for more than 5 minutes. That was a lie, wasn't it?
He wasn't. I mean, apart from that one time.
Mr. Musgrove, I put it to you that you would do anything to defend your brother, including lying under oath.
Well, that's not true.
Isn't it?
He didn't do it.
Well, how are you so certain about that?
Because it was that Harvey fella, her mate from university. He even admitted it to me. It should be him in that dock, not our Luke.
Members of the jury, an important legal matter has arisen. I would ask you to withdraw while it is dealt with. Is it correct, Mr. Georgeson, that a Harvey Fairhurst admitted this crime?
He made an admission to Ryan Musgrove to that effect, Your Honour, but when the police investigated it, he immediately withdrew his admission. Indeed, it seems distinctly possible that Ryan Musgrove forced the admission out of Mr. Fairhurst by using violence. Mr. Fairhurst had sustained certain injuries.
I see. Were you aware of all this, Mr. Curran?
Yes, Your Honour, the prosecution did disclose it to the defence. It is no part of my case that the real attacker of Miss Shadwick was Mr. Fairhurst, simply that he was not my client and could therefore have been anyone else.
If I tell the jury, therefore, to disregard the allegation that Mr. Fairhurst admitted the offence, would you rest content with that?
Yes, Your Honour.
Have I told you I'm being stalked?
By who?
Mark.
Not Victoria's Mark.
Who else?
Well, you did promise to have a chat with her.
I know. Well, we all know how she feels, except him. The 3 messages I've had on my mobile this morning.
Oh, God, why can't he just accept that it's over between them?
I can't keep ignoring him forever. I'm going to have to get back to him eventually. What am I going to say?
The truth?
I can't. It'll kill him. I mean, no matter what we think about him, the poor bloke's genuinely besotted with her.
Sometimes cruel to be kind.
Oh, why me?
Anyway, I don't know why you don't jump at the chance to put him straight.
How do you mean?
Oh, come off it. Don't be playing the innocent. If this is your big chance, you may as well grab it while you can.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think it's about time you admitted it to yourself.
Admitted what?
Oh, you fancy Victoria for years. Everyone knows that. Here's your golden opportunity to do something about it.
How do you think it's going?
Well, we could have done without your little outburst.
What sort of family are the jury going to think we are now?
Do you think they'll go against us? They can only go on the evidence they've got. And to be frank, there's not very much of it.
So, what happens now?
Well, they'll be summing up after lunch, and it'll be down to the jury to go off and reach a verdict.
How long do you think that'll take?
It's impossible to tell.
But you must have a good idea what the outcome's going to be.
I've said all along, I'd be very surprised if they get a conviction.
And you still think that?
It's not my decision to make, Mr. Musgrove. It's in the hands of the jury now. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, over the last couple of days you have heard evidence from various witnesses who testify that Luke Musgrove drugged and then raped Nicholas Shadwick in the bedroom of number 5 Brookside Close. A cold and calculating attack on a vulnerable young woman. You have heard evidence from Nicola herself that earlier on in the night she was engaged in an embrace with Mr. Musgrove. And she did indeed follow him into the bedroom where they continued to kiss. It was only when he attempted to take matters further that Nicola Shadwick decided she didn't want to participate. Now, if she had wanted to have sex with Mr. Musgrove, she had the opportunity to do so there and then. But the fact of the matter is that Nicola Shadwick did not want to have sex with him, and she couldn't have made it any clearer. Now, you also heard that Nicola Shadwick was a virgin prior to the party. She knew what she wanted. And that wasn't some sordid, drunken, sexual encounter in an upstairs bedroom at a party in a neighbour's house. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that Nicola Shadwick had been drugged. Drugged by the man who had earlier pursued her and whom she had rejected. The man who had previously taken her into the bedroom in the hope of taking advantage of her being in an intoxicated state. Now, Nicola Shadwick's own brother had spoken to her literally seconds before she entered the room. And Mr. Musgrove was there to witness the conversation. Did he share Nicola's brother's view that she was indeed drunk and should return home? Oh, no, because Mr. Musgrove only wanted one thing. But his plan didn't come to fruition. He was left feeling bitter and rejected. So what did he do? He returned downstairs to the party, where he slipped a drug into the drink, and then he waited. He waited till Miss Shadwick was in such a state she could hardly walk and had to be virtually carried upstairs to the bedroom. And while she lay on the bed, under the effects of the drug administered by him, Mr. Musgrove returned to the bedroom and raped her. And how do we know this? We know this because Nicola Shadwick saw him. Now, you heard that the day after the party, Nicola Shadwick was completely disorientated and had no memory of what had happened. This is hardly surprising given the strength of the drug she had unwillingly and unknowingly taken. And you heard evidence from Dr. Josephine O'Keefe, a psychiatrist, who is an expert in these matters. And she verified that the flashbacks Nicola began to have several weeks after the incident were perfectly normal, and that there is absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be considered as reliable evidence. And let us remind ourselves again of what Nicola saw. Luke Musgrove. Luke Musgrove, members of the jury, lying on top of her. She saw his face, she heard his voice, he was having sexual intercourse with her. He was hurting her. She wanted him to stop, but she was powerless to do so. You heard the following morning. Miss Shadwick's father accidentally disposed of the sheet from the bed, effectively destroying any real chance of the police discovering any DNA evidence. But let's consider the evidence we do have. There's the bottle Miss Shadwick was drinking from, the bottle which contained traces of a tranquilizer. This, without question, proves that she had been drugged against her will. But more significantly, there is the shirt button. Luke Musgrove's shirt button, which was found on the bed the day after the rape took place. Now, you heard Mr. Musgrove in his testimony claim that he was never near the bed on any occasion. So, what was his explanation? He said it must have fallen off when she stumbled against him. But they were standing by the door. I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that the only way that button could have ended up on the bed was because it was the very same bed on which he raped Nicola Shadwick, a defenseless, vulnerable young woman who was absolutely incapable of fighting him off because Mr. Musgrove had made absolutely certain of that. May I suggest, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that you find Luke Musgrove guilty on both counts. That is the case of the prosecution, Your Honor.
Mr. Corran.
Members of the jury, the first thing I'd like you to ask yourselves is this. What evidence is there that this is indeed a case of unlawful sexual intercourse? You have heard from various witnesses that Miss Shadwick was heavily intoxicated, behaving in a flirtatious manner. Indeed, at one point, she even went into the bedroom with a man that she barely knew. Does this really sound like the behavior of a virgin who is saving herself for the right man? Indeed, even Miss Shadwick's own brother found her behavior embarrassing and intolerable. The police have statements from 17 people who say that they saw Miss Shadwick behaving in this manner. 17 people, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. These 17 people also say that the last time that they saw Miss Shadwick was when she was taken upstairs by Michael Dixon, whose testimony you have also heard. In not a single one of these 17 statements is Luke Musgrove's name mentioned. What you, as the jury, must accept is that there is not a single shred of real evidence to link Luke Musgrove to the charges made against him. No DNA, no forensic evidence, absolutely nothing. The prosecution called a psychiatrist to testify to the reliability of Miss Shadwick's memory. In my cross-examination of the witness, I asked her if it could be possible that Miss Shadwick was so desperate to find answers that on hearing of Luke Musgrove's arrest, she had simply convinced herself that it must be him. the witness replied that, although it was unlikely, it could not be ruled out. Well, if it cannot be ruled out, then surely some doubt is cast upon the version of events Miss Shadwick later claims to have remembered. Then, of course, there's the shirt button. The shirt button which was found on the bed. A shirt button, members of the jury. Now, you heard in Luke Musgrove's testimony that he'd been in the room with Miss Shadwick earlier in the evening. She'd stumbled and grabbed hold of his shirt to steady herself. Now, it is perfectly plausible that the button could have come off then. But how did it get on the bed? How indeed? Especially as we've already heard that the following morning Miss Shadwick had removed the sheet from the bed. In which case, surely the button would have fallen on the floor. Perhaps it's just one of those things that will remain a mystery. But one thing is certain. Not by any stretch of the imagination could it be considered strong enough evidence to convict a man of so heinous a crime. As for the charge of administering a noxious substance, well, you've already heard me say in my opening statement that once again there is not a single shred of evidence to support that Luke Musgrove was responsible. Not a single shred, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. So, how can we be 100% certain that this is a case of rape, as the prosecution have referred to it? Could it not just be the familiar tale of a young woman who goes to a party, has too much to drink, loses control, loses her virginity, and later regrets it? And who did she lose her virginity to? Well, that is something that we, or Miss Shadwick, will never know. Such is the lack of evidence. In these circumstances, is it any wonder that a young woman should cry rape? But even if Miss Shadwick's claims of rape are true, then still the chances of discovering who was responsible are virtually nil. Because any number of men who were present on the night in question could have perpetrated that crime, so weak is the evidence against Luke Musgrove. Members of the jury, you have a right and a duty to give the only verdict that can be considered. I ask you to find Luke Musgrove not guilty of both charges. That is the case for the defence, Your Honour.
In an hour or two, that toll rag will be checking back into his cell for a long, long time.
Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
I want to spend the night with you.
Have you been drinking? I couldn't have got through the last week without you.
They've gone